Welcome to our class, Unit 3, Lesson 3A, A2A level, Personal Best, Richmond. Let's start. Today our topic is family members. Let's start. As you can see, this is a family tree. Family tree is composed by the members of a family. Is your family big or small? How many people are there in your family? My family is not so big. Look, this is my family. Me and my 3 children, David, Deborah, and Danielle. This is my dad, my father. My father is dead. This is my mother and me. My father, my mother. My father's name is João. My mother's name is Rosa. João and Rosa are my parents. This is my son, David. This is my son, Daniel. And this is my daughter, Deborah. This is my family. David, Daniel, and Deborah are my 3 children. Look, this is me. My brother Teddy, my brother Elton, my sister-in-law Jussara and my sister-in-law Luana. Jussara is Teddy's wife. Teddy is Jussara's husband. Luana is Elton's wife. Elton is Luana's husband. So they are my sisters-in-law. These boys are Giovanni and Guilherme. They are my nephews. They are Teddy and Jussara's children. And these are my children, my 3 children, Danielle, Deborah, and David. What do you and your family do together? Do you have fun together? Look at the pictures. What activities do these families do together? In the first picture, they swim together. In the second picture, they are having a picnic. So they have picnics in the park. And in the third picture, they are riding bikes. Okay? What about you? What do you and your family do together to have fun? Look at this. What do they do together? When and where do you spend time with your granddaddy? Look at this picture. This is the grandfather and a little boy, the grandson. Where are they? Are they at home? In a park? So, when and where do you spend time with your granddaddy? The boy says, I see my grandfather on the weekend. We play soccer together every Sunday. What about you? Do you have grandparents? Do you spend time with your grandparents? What do you do together? Do you play sports together? It's nice to talk to your grandparents. My grandmother prepares a delicious chocolate cake. What about your family? What do you do together? Take a look at this picture. It's a self of a family. And in this text, we are talking about family get-togethers. What is a family get-together? It's a time when you and the members of your family do activities together, like going camping, like having breakfast together or a special lunch. It is about any activity you do together with your family. So let's pay attention to the reading. Once a year, my whole family meets at my parents' house for a weekend of fun, music, and great food. We're a big family, and there are 4 generations of us. In the morning, we often play games with the children in the park. My brother Ben has a boy and a girl. My niece and nephew are crazy about soccer, so we usually play that. In the afternoon, we go for a walk or stay at home. We sit in the backyard and we sometimes make things with the children. My sister-in-law Louise teaches 5-year-olds and she always brings lots of paper and pens. In the evening, we cook dinner. Food's always an important part of the weekend. Our food's very international. My grandmother's Brazilian, my dad's Colombian, my sister-in-law's British, and my husband's Polish. We often have Mexican food because we all love it. We never watch television. We prefer to talk. My Uncle Paul and my cousins Joe and Megan play music. Uncle Paul and Joe play the guitar, and Megan sings and plays the piano. They're really good. I don't see my family often because we all live in different parts of the country, but I love these weekends. They're really special. Now let's pay attention to the verbs from numbers 1 to number 6. We are talking about activities that the family gets together and do to have fun, right? So in number 1, we use the verb play. We play games. In number 2, we use the expression go for a walk. In number 3, make things with the children. 4, cook dinner. 5, watch television. 6, see my family. Pay attention because we are using these verbs in the simple present form. And how do you know that these verbs are in the simple present? Pay attention to this. Play. I'm talking about routine. I say that we often play games with the children in the park in the morning, right? So we are talking about routine. In the afternoon, what do you do together? We go for a walk or stay at home. Again, the verb go indicates routine. Number 3, the verb make. We sometimes make things with the children. Again, we are talking about simple present tense because we are mentioning here the habits, the routine that people here sometimes do together. In number 4, we are talking about in the evening. And again, simple present tense for routine. What do they do in the evening? What is their routine about that? They cook dinner, you see? And in number 5, they do another routine action. What do they do? In fact, they say they never do. What they don't do here is they never watch television in the negative form, right? And in number 6, again, we are using the simple present tense, but in the negative form, we use I don't see my family often. We are talking about a habit. This person does not see the family very frequently, you see? So all these verbs indicate the actions are in the simple present tense. And what makes sense to indicate the verbs are in the simple present tense here is the adverb. The frequency adverbs that we use together or the time expressions that we use to indicate the verbs are in the simple present tense. They all indicate routine. All right, let's go ahead. Now, let's remember we are talking about family. This is Jack's family. Can you see Jack? Jack has a big family. Look at number 1. Number 1 is Bill and number 2 is Marion. Bill and Marion are Jack's grandparents. Bill is Jack's grandfather and Marion is Jack's grandmother. And who is Jack's father? Take a look. In number 6, we see Harry. And number 7, we see Jane. Harry and Jane are Jack's parents. So Harry is Jack's father and Jane is Jack's mother, right? Harry and Jane have 3 children, Jack, Andy, and Sarah. Number 13 and number 14. They are Harry's and Jane's children, Jack, Andy, and Sarah, right? So who is Andy related to Jack? Andy is Jack's brother. And Sarah, number 14. She is Jack's sister. All right? Harry has a sister. Who is Harry's sister? Can you see the line connected to Harry? In number 3, Diane. Diane is Harry's sister. And what is the relationship from Diane to Jack? Who is Diane related to Jack? Diane is Harry's sister. Harry is Jack's father. Okay? So who is Diane to Jack? She is Jack's aunt. In number 3, Diane is Jack's aunt, right? Diane has 2 children in number 9 and 10. They are Stephen and Paula. They are Diane's children, right? Stephen is Diane's son and Paula is Diane's daughter. Remember my family? Deborah is my daughter, David is my son. But what is the relation between Jack with Stephen and Paula? Who are Stephen and Paula? Stephen and Paula are Jack's cousins. All right? They are Jack's cousins. Okay? And take a look at David in number 15. David is married with Sarah. Who is Sarah? Jack's sister. Remember? And Sarah is married to David. David is Sarah's husband. And Sarah is David's wife. They are a couple. They are married. And they have 2 children, Solomon and Carmen. Can you see? In number 18 and 19, we have Solomon and Carmen. Who are they related to Jack? They are Jack's nephew and niece. We use nephew for the boy and niece for the girl, right? Pay attention now to Christine and Robert. Take a look. Robert and Christine are married, right? They are a couple too, like Sarah and David. Robert is Christine's husband and Christine is Robert's wife. And they are Carrie's parents, all right? and they are father-in-law and mother-in-law, but related to Jack, because Jack's wife is Carrie. Can you see? Carrie is Jack's wife, and Jack is Carrie's husband. All right? But who is Louise in number 11? Louise is Jack's sister-in-law. Robert is Carrie's father, and Christine is Carrie's mother. If they are Carrie's father and mother, what is the relation to Jack? They are father and mother too, but in-law. What's in-law? When you get married, all the family from the person who you got married are your in-laws. Example, Carrie is married to Jack. Christine is Carrie's mother, so she is Jack's mother-in-law. All right? And Robert, in number 4. Robert is Carrie's father, but to Jack, Robert is Jack's father-in-law. Louise is Carrie's sister in number 11, but Louise to Jack is his sister-in-law. Do you understand? Now let's continue. Carrie and Jack are a couple. Remember, wife and husband. And they have 2 children. In number 16 and 17, Evie and Zach. Evie is Carrie's and Jack's daughter, and Zach is their son. Daughter and son. They are Carrie's and Jack's children. They have 2 children, all right? A girl, Evie, the daughter, and Zach, the boy, their son, all right? Now, let's take a look at number 7 and number 8. Harry and Jane, remember, they are Jack's parents. Harry has 2 sisters, right? No, just 1 sister in number 3, Diane. And who is number 8? Tim. Who is he? Tim is Harry's brother. And what is the relationship to Jack? Remember that Diane is Jack's aunt. To the girls, to the woman, we use aunt. And when it is a man like Tim in number 8, we say uncle. Do you understand? So let's review. A família do Jack se torna grande, porque aqui a gente percebe várias relações. Nós temos os avós, grandparents, grandfather para avô, grandmother para avó. E daí nós temos o Harry e a Jane, que são os pais do Jack, father and mother, parents. O Harry tem uma irmã, one sister, que é a Diane, lá no número 3. E o irmão, o brother, o Tim, no número 8. Em relação ao Jack, eles são tia, no número 3, aunt, e tio, uncle, no número 8. Já o Jack, ele tem 2 irmãos, 2 siblings. A palavra siblings se usa para brother and sister. Se fossem 2 irmãos, 2 garotos, seria 2 brothers. Se fossem 2 irmãs garotas, seria 2 sisters. Mas quando é um brother e uma sister, a gente usa a palavra siblings. So Jack has 2 siblings. Alright? Então ele tem 2 irmãos, Wendy e a Sarah. A Sarah é casada com o David e o David passa a ser o que do Jack? Se a Sarah é irmã do Jack, então o David passa a ser irmão do Jack também, só que irmão pela lei. Por isso que tem essa palavrinha in-law. Quando você se casa, toda a família da pessoa que você se casa passa a ser sua também. pela lei. Por isso que tem essa palavrinha in-law. Vocês percebem no número 4 e no número 5 que nós temos o Robert e a Christine? Eles são os pais, the parents of Carrie, né? Carrie's parents. Então, se eles são os pais da Carrie, eles também vão ser os pais do Jack, só que in-law. Father-in-law, que é o sogro, mother-in-law, que é a sogra. E sister-in-law é o quê? A Louise. É a cunhada, é a irmã pela lei. Se ela é a irmã da Carrie, que é a wife do Jack, né? A esposa do Jack, então ela se torna irmã também, só que in-law, pela lei. Deu para entender isso? Agora, a Diane, ela não é casada, mas ela tem o quê? 2 filhos, né? 2 children, Stephen and Paula. E qual é a relação deles com o Jack? Se ela é a tia do Jack, Jack's aunt, Stephen and Paula são o que para o Jack? São os cousins, são os primos. Entendido? Então vamos continuar finalizando. A Sarah, que é a Jack's sister, né, que é a irmã do Jack, ela se casou com o David e teve 2 children também, né? E o Solomon e a Carmen são o que para o Jack? São sobrinho e sobrinha. Nephew, niece. Nephew for the boys, niece for the girls. Alright? Finalizando, nós temos a Eve e o Zach. Eve é a daughter, é a filha do Jack. Jack's daughter. E Zach é o que para o Jack? É o son, Jack's son. Ok? So let's continue. What is male, female, and both? Remember that we talked about family members? So let's complete here the chart with the family words from the exercises 1 and 2 that we studied. For example, grandfather. Is it male, female, or used for both? Male and female. Male é masculino, female é feminino e both, ambos. Então, quais palavras referentes aos membros de uma família podem ser usadas somente para o masculino, male, somente para o feminino, female, ou podem ser usados para ambos, female, feminino, and male, e masculino? Let's check. Olha só as respostas. The answers are male, grandfather, father, father-in-law, uncle, brother, brother-in-law, husband, son, nephew. Então, essas palavrinhas aí, these words are used for male, né? São usadas para o masculino, que é o avô, pai, sogro, tio, irmão, cunhado, marido, filho, sobrinho, ok? And female. Female are grandmother, mother, mother-in-law, aunt, sister, sister-in-law, wife, daughter, niece. Então, essas são as palavrinhas que são femininas. Vó, mãe, sogra, tia, irmã, cunhada, esposa, filha, sobrinha. And which family words are used for both male and female? They are grandparents, parents, in-laws, cousin, children. Então, para ambos, both, né? Tanto o male masculino quanto o female feminino pode ser usado os avós, grandparents, a palavra parents, pais, in-laws, que são todos os que a gente adquire ao casar, né? Cousin, os primos, children, filhos. Só para observar, a palavra children é o plural de child. We say one child, 2 children, que significa criança. Então, child, criança, children é o plural irregular, crianças. Mas quando a gente fala de family words, a gente está falando de filhos. Eu poderia falar kids para crianças também, mas a gente usa mais children para se falar de filhos. Son, filho, daughter, filha. E no plural, children, tanto para male quanto para female. Conseguiram entender? Let's continue. Let's practice. Find 3 false definitions and let's correct the definitions. So we have 8 sentences here and you're going to identify the wrong sentences and correct the wrong sentences, okay? In number 1, my nephew is my brother's son. Is it right or wrong? O meu sobrinho é o filho do meu irmão? Sim, né? Tá correto. Number 2, my mother-in-law is my wife's sister. A minha sogra é a irmã da minha esposa? Não dá para ser. A irmã da minha esposa é minha cunhada, my sister-in-law. Então a gente percebe que tem alguma coisa errada nessa frase. Vamos corrigir? Let's correct. Ah, não é sister. So let's correct. My mother-in-law is my wife's mother. Então a minha sogra, ela é a mãe da minha esposa. My mother-in-law is my wife's mother. Ok? Prestaram atenção? Number 3. My daughter is my son's sister. A minha filha é irmã do meu filho? É isso? Tá correto? Corretíssimo, né? Number 4. My granddaughter is my daughter's daughter. A minha neta é a filha da minha filha. Is it right or wrong? Right. Ok. A palavra grand na frente de outra palavra se torna uma pessoa anterior a ela. Então, mother é mãe. Quando eu coloco grand na frente de mother, fica grandmother. Então, é a minha avó. E se eu colocar great na frente da palavra grand, vira bisavó. Great grandmother. Ok? Então, a palavra daughter é filha e granddaughter é neta. Entendido? Vamos adiante. Number 5. My niece is my cousin's daughter. A minha sobrinha é filha do meu primo? Is it right or wrong? É isso mesmo? Tá correto ou tá errado? A minha sobrinha é a filha do meu primo? Wrong. My niece is not my cousin's daughter. My niece is my brother's daughter. Or my niece is my sister's daughter. Okay? So let's go ahead. The correct is brothers or sister. Então, a minha sobrinha, ela é a filha do meu irmão ou da minha irmã. Brothers or sister's daughter. Okay? Number 6. My father-in-law is my husband's father. O meu sogro é o pai do meu esposo? Right or wrong? Correct. Totalmente correto, né? Number 7. My grandparents are my nephew's parents. Os meus avós são os pais do meu sobrinho? No. So let's correct. My grandparents are my parents' parents. Os meus avós são os pais dos meus pais. Observem que na número 5 eu usei o quê? Apóstrofo S depois de brother e depois de sister. Por quê? Porque está no singular. E na palavra parents, na número 7, eu não usei apóstrofo S, eu só usei o apóstrofo. E nesse caso, é uma palavra que termina em plural, terminada em S, a gente usa somente o apóstrofo. Lembram dessa regrinha quando a gente estudou o caso possessivo? Então, eu digo que eles são os pais dos meus pais. Parents, parents. And number 8, my cousins are my aunt's children. Os meus primos são os filhos da minha tia? Correct. Okay? Let's go ahead. And now we are going to talk about another topic. We're going to talk about frequency adverbs. We are talking about routine, simple present. And when we talk about simple present tense, habit, routine, remember that we use the frequency adverbs. And what are they? Let's check. What is used in these sentences from numbers 1 to 6 to identify here the frequency of the action? So what indicates the frequency of the actions below? Let's underline the frequency adverbs in number 1. I play tennis with my brother-in-law once a week. What indicates the frequency of the action of playing tennis with my brother-in-law? Once a week. Once a week indicates the frequency that I play tennis with my brother-in-law. Então, eu jogo tênis com meu cunhado uma vez por semana. Essa palavrinha once a week é a expressão que eu uso como advérbio de frequência. Eu faço isso uma vez por semana. Once a week. A palavra once significa one time, uma vez. Number 2. I read stories to my son and daughter every evening. What indicates the frequency that I read the stories to my son and daughter? Every evening. Então, toda noite é a frequência da minha ação. Eu leio histórias para o meu filho e para minha filha toda noite. Every evening. Number 3. I go out for coffee with my cousin Joe twice a month. What is the frequency adverb here? Twice a month. This is the expression we use to identify here the frequency that I go out for coffee with my cousin Joe. Então, eu saio para tomar um cafezinho com meu primo Joe 2 vezes por mês. Twice a month. Once, lá na número 1, nós aprendemos que significa one time. E twice, 2 times. Você pode falar 2 times a month or twice a month, ok? Para indicar o quê? A ação que você faz nessa frequência. A ação de sair para tomar um café. Com que frequência? How often? Twice a month. 2 vezes por mês, ok? Number 4. I watch TV with my son every day. What is the frequency here? Every day. When do you watch TV with your son? Every day. Então, todo dia eu assisto TV com meu filho. Essa é a frequência. Every day. Todo dia. Number 5. I go out for dinner with my wife once a month. How do you identify here the frequency? Once a month. Assim como lá no número 1 a gente viu once a week, one time a week, uma vez por semana, na número 5 a gente vê once a month, one time a month, uma vez ao mês. Então, uma vez ao mês eu saio para jantar com minha esposa, né? O marido está dizendo aqui. Number 6, I buy food for my grandmother 3 times a week. So, what's the frequency indicated here? 3 times a week. What is the frequency that you buy food for your grandmother? 3 times a week. Então, a frequência que você compra comida para sua avó é de 3 vezes por semana. 3 times a week, ok? Entendido aí? Então, só para revisar quais são as expressões usadas de cada frase aqui. Na number 1, once a week. Number 2, every evening. Number 3, twice a month, 2 times a month. 4, every day. 5, once a month, 1 time a month. And number 6, 3 times a week. Okay? Let's go ahead. Attention. Frequency adverbs go after the verb be and before other verbs. Então, o que a gente tem que observar aí? Que antes dos verbos to be, am, is, are, desses verbos aí, a gente vai sempre usar os advérbios de frequência. ok? Example, I am always at school in the morning. I never go to school on Sundays. Observem, sempre depois do verbo to be e antes dos outros verbos, ok? Let's go ahead and study the frequency adverbs in the percentage. 100% we use always, usually, often, about, from 90% to 70%. 50% we use sometimes. 10% we use hardly ever. And 0% we use never. Então a gente vê a frequência desses advérbios aí e expressões quando a gente verifica de 100% até 0%. Quando a gente diz que não faz nada daquilo, que não tem a frequência de fazer um hábito, uma rotina, a gente usa o never, que é 0%. E vai crescendo, né? 5% a 10% é algo raro de fazer, né? Hardly ever, raramente, rarely, hardly ever, almost never, que é de 5 a 10%. Sometimes está entre 50%, algumas vezes, às vezes você faz, né? Sometimes. Often é o mesmo que frequently, você faz frequentemente, está ali na casa dos 70% ou 80%. Dos 80 aos 90 nós temos o usually, generally, que é o usualmente, geralmente, e o always significa 100%, você faz sempre, always. The frequency expressions are once a day, once a week, once a month, once a year, twice a day, twice a week, twice a month, twice a year, 3 times a day, 3 times a week, 3 times a month, and 3 times a year. Or we have the expression every day, every week, every month, every year. Ok? Aqui são algumas das expressões que indicam frequência de hábito, de rotina. Então, você faz algo uma vez, 2 vezes, 3 vezes por dia, por semana, por mês, por ano, indicando a frequência dessa ação de rotina, de hábito, no simple present, né? No presente simples. Ou você usa every, mais o substantivo, dia, semana, mês ou ano. Todo, cada, né? Todo dia, toda semana. Pode até incluir aí, né, as estações do ano. Né? Every summer, todo verão. Every spring, toda primavera. Every winter, todo inverno. Every fall, todo outono. Okay? Let's go ahead. We are talking about the frequency adverbs and the expressions. Remember, we have some examples to talk about routines and the frequency that you do the things, how often we do the things. Remember, always is 100%. I always watch TV on the weekend. Usually it's about between 90 and 80%. Usually. I usually read the newspaper on the weekend. Often is between 80 and 70%. And it is also mean frequently, frequentemente. Example, I often go for a walk on the weekend. Sometimes is in the middle, 50%. Example, I sometimes study English on the weekend. Hardly ever is about 10% of frequency. I hardly ever drink coffee. Almost never, alright? And 0%, never, we say, I never watch soccer on the weekend. Alright? So these are the frequency adverbs that we use to indicate routines in the simple present tense, to talk about how often we do the things, how often we practice these activities as habits. All right, let's go ahead. Take a look at this graphic. We have 100%, always, usually or generally, about 90%, often or frequently, about 80% to 70%, sometimes 50%, hardly ever, hardly ever, about 10%, almost never, and never 0%, right? So this is the graphic representing the frequency adverbs. And remember, when we want to talk about how often we do the things, we use the frequency adverbs according to the times that I practice that activity, all right? Let's go ahead. We use the frequency adverbs after verb to be. Remember, examples. It's usually snowy in January. He's always happy when he travels to the mountains. She's never home on Saturday evenings. Pay attention to the position of the frequency adverbs in the sentences. They are always after the verb to be. Okay? Let's practice. The first one, complete this sentence with the frequency adverb. We're, you can say, always at the movies on Friday evenings, sometimes, generally, usually. So remember that the position of the frequency adverbs is after the verb to be. Okay, we say we're often at the movies on Friday evenings. Remember, after the verb to be, we use the frequency adverb. All right? Second example, we have I'm online. What is the frequency that you are online? So how often are you online? Are you online 100%? Always. Are you online about 50%? Sometimes. So what is the answer here? I'm always online. So this person answers that this person practices this action 100%. The person is online 100% of the frequency, always, right? The last example here, as you can see, these students are late. So, they are always late for class, all the time, 100%, or 0%, never. So, what is the example here? Usually. So, they're usually late for class. Pay attention to the position of often, always, usually. They are after the verb to be. Alright? So let's go ahead. And we use the frequency adverbs before the other verbs. Remember, after the verb to be, but with the other verbs we use the frequency adverbs before. Examples. They always go to school on foot. Always go. He usually plays video games with his dad. Usually plays. We often have lunch at a restaurant. Often have. As you can see, the position of the frequency adverbs here in these examples are before the verbs go, plays, and have. Alright? Então, muita atenção. Com o verbo to be, a gente já sabe, depois do verbo to be, a gente usa o advérbio de frequência. Com os outros verbos, sempre antes deles. Always go, usually plays, often have. Let's practice. Take a look at this picture. We have a man fishing. So, how do you answer here? You can say always, usually, sometimes, hardly ever, never. So pay attention to the position of the frequency adverb. We use before or after the verb go? We use before. You see? I sometimes go fishing. Next example. She cooks dinner for the family. How often does this woman cook dinner for the family? Does she always cook? Does she usually cook? How often? Qual é a frequência que ela vai praticar essa ação de cozinhar, de fazer o jantar para a família? Será mesmo que ela faz esse jantar todo dia, every day? Let's check. Hardly ever. Raramente. Pay attention to the position of hardly ever. Before or after the verb cook? She hardly ever cooks before. Okay? And the last example. You play soccer during break. What's the position of the frequency adverb? Before or after the verb play? Before. So you never play soccer during break. As you can see, sometimes, hardly ever, never are frequency adverbs that indicate the frequency that these people here do these actions. The man sometimes goes fishing. The woman hardly ever cooks dinner. And you never play. Todos os verbos aqui vocês podem observar que eles estão antecedidos dos advérbios de frequência. Então, com o verbo to be depois, com outros verbos antes. Ok? Let's go ahead. So, the frequency adverbs always, usually, often, sometimes, hardly ever, and never. Vamos relembrar aí. What's the correct option? Frequency adverbs come before or after the verb to be. Remember? And the frequency adverbs come before or after other verbs. Let's check. After verb to be and before other verbs. Alright? The frequency adverbs in the right position, in the right order is, let's put the adverbs in the correct places. So number 1, my father reads the newspaper. What's the position of always? Remember, before or after the verb read? Before. You say, my father always reads the newspaper. Okay? In number 2, my aunt has lunch with friends. A minha tia almoça com amigos. Onde que você vai colocar o often, que é o advérbio de frequência, frequentemente? Before, antes, or after the verb, ou depois do verbo? Remember? Antes de qualquer verbo e depois do verbo to be. So number 2, my aunt often has lunch with friends. Often has. Alright? Number 3, my cousin is at home in the evening. Where do you put usually? Let's check. The verb in number 3 is the verb to be, is. My cousin is. Remember, we use in the position before or after the verb to be. Let's check. After. So you say, my cousin is usually at home in the evening. Com os demais verbos antes, before, mas com o verbo to be, depois, after. Remember? Number 4, they work on the weekend. They work on the weekend. We use sometimes before other verbs, remember? So you say, they sometimes work on the weekend. Sometimes está antes do verbo. Por quê? Porque não é o verbo to be. Number 5, I go to the movies. Where do you put never? You say, do you say I never go or I go never? Let's check. Before other verbs. After the verb to be. So you say, I never go to the movies. Eu nunca vou ao cinema. Number 6, I'm very busy. Eu sou muito ocupado. Eu estou muito ocupado. Where do you put often? I often am or I'm often. Before or after the verb to be. Remember? In number 3, I said, is usually. So, number 6, I'm often very busy. Depois do verbo to be, after the verb to be. Did you understand? Any questions about it? Tell me later, okay? Ask me all the questions. Let's practice a little bit more. You're going to use the frequency expressions here to complete the sentences. So, which words do you complete the sentences here? In number 1, I go to the gym. Number 2, we go on vacation 3 times in March, May, and October. Number 3, I see my grandparents twice a week. 4, I usually have a cup of coffee a day with breakfast and after lunch. Number 5, my dad plays golf 3 a week. 6, my brother visits me twice a week, but my sister only visits me a week. So let's try to complete. Number 1, I go to the gym every day. Okay? Number 2, we go on vacation 3 times a year. Por quê? 3 vezes ao ano. Porque você fala 3 meses, ó. Março, maio e outubro. Então, 3 vezes ao ano. A expressão é 3 times a year. Or 3 times per year. Ok? Number 3. I see my grandparents twice a week. Então, a palavrinha que está faltando aí é a, que é a preposição igual a per. Por semana. Number 4. I usually have a cup of coffee twice a day with breakfast and after lunch. Twice é o mesmo que 2 times a day. Se eu estou falando que é no café da manhã e depois do almoço, breakfast and lunch, então estou falando de 2 times a day, 2 vezes por dia. Twice a day, alright? Number 5. My dad plays golf 3 times a week. A gente sempre fala once a, twice a, 3 times a, 4 times a e assim por diante. Once para one time, twice para 2 times, and 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and go on, right? The last one, number 6, you say, my brother visits me twice a week, but my sister only visits me once a week. Eu sei que é once a week porque se o meu irmão me visita 2 vezes por semana, twice a week, mas, né, no entanto, a minha irmã só me visita, então se é só, esse only, indica que é somente uma vez, one time a week, once a week. Todo mundo entendeu? Vamos adiante, let's go ahead. Let's practice a little bit more. Take a look. We have number 1, never Sam listens to music. 2, always the apartments here are nice. 3, we eat out hardly ever on Saturdays. 4, Lydia drives to work every day. 5, we see our cousins 4 or 5 times a year. 6, I go to the theater once time a month. Correct the sentences here with the right words. Então, a gente já sabe que tem que corrigir cada sentença dessa em algum erro que a gente vai observar agora e fazer a correção, ok? A gente já percebe no número 1 que a gente está iniciando uma frase com never, com advérbio de frequência. E a gente sabe que a posição do advérbio de frequência não é no início. Então, os advérbios de frequência, always, usually, frequently, often, usually, generally, sometimes, hardly ever, rarely, and never, sempre são usados antes de qualquer verbo e depois do verbo to be. O verbo usado na número 1 é o listen. Então, o never vai ficar Before or after do verbo listen? Vamos checar aí? Check. Sam never listens to music. O never está antes de qualquer verbo e depois do verbo to be. Como o listen está na categoria dos outros verbos, ele está antes dele. Né? Never listens, ok? Number 2, what is the correction? The apartments here are always nice. Observem que aí eu já usei o verbo to be, are. E o advérbio always, ele ficou o quê? Before or after the verb to be? After. So I say, the apartments here are always nice. Are always, ok? Depois do verbo to be. Number 3. Qual é o verbo aí no número 3? Eat out, né? Comer fora. Então, nós comemos fora aos sábados. E a frequência é hardly ever, raramente. Onde é a posição do hardly ever? Before or after the verb eat out? Let's check. We hardly ever eat out on Saturdays. O hardly ever está antes do verbo eat out, ok? Number 4. O verbo aí é o drive. Drive não é o verbo to be. Então, a gente já sabe que se eu tivesse aqui um advérbio always, never, hardly ever, sometimes, seria antes do verbo drive. Só que aí eu estou com outro tipo de expressão e não um advérbio de frequência. Eu estou com uma expressão de tempo. Está correto dizer every day, todos os dias? Não, todos os dias a gente não precisa acrescentar esse S, né? Então fica como? Lydia drives to work every day. Eu poderia dizer de outra forma? Sim. Lydia drives to work all days, todos os dias, ok? Ou você fala every day ou all days. Every days não existe, tá? Wrong, errado. Ok? The correct is every day or all days. All the days of the week. Number 5. What's the correction here? The verb is see. What's the frequency that you see your cousins? How often do you see your cousins? You say 4 or 5 times a year. No, it's wrong. What's the correction? We see our cousins 4 or 5 times a year. Tem que usar a preposição a year, que significa per year, por ano, ok? And number 6, I go to the theater once time a month. A gente, quando usa once and twice, precisa dizer time? Yes or no? Let's check. You say, I go to the theater once a month. It's not necessary to use the word time. You can say one time a month, but once a month. Então, nunca vai usar once time, nem twice times. Por quê? Porque once já significa one time. E twice já significa two times. Por isso que não há necessidade de usar a palavra time depois de once. Ok? Pay attention here now. Observe. The frequency adverbs sometimes can be used in different positions in the sentence. In the beginning, in the end, or in the middle with the verb to be. And with the other verbs, the same way. In the beginning, in the end, or in the middle. But pay attention to the difference. We use after the verb to be and before other verbs, alright? Examples. Sometimes I'm sleepy after lunch. I'm sleepy after lunch sometimes. I'm sometimes sleepy after lunch. You see? With the other verbs. Sometimes I check my emails in the beginning of the sentence. I check my emails sometimes in the end of the sentence. And in the middle of the sentence before the main verb, I sometimes check my emails. Perceberam? Então, o advérbio de frequência sometimes, algumas vezes, pode ser usado no início, no fim ou no meio da frase entre, no caso, o verbo to be, depois do verbo to be e o complemento. E com os outros verbos, ele pode ser usado no início, no fim e no meio da frase, entre o sujeito e o verbo principal. Lembrem-se, depois do verbo to be, after the verb to be, and before other verbs, okay? Remember. And to ask questions about frequency, we use how often. O que seria esse how often? Let's study. When we have questions about the frequency, how do you ask a question about frequency? We use how often. How often is used to talk about the frequency you do an activity, an action. So we use questions. How often do you? Or how often are you? Pay attention to this. Ask the question. Do you say, how often do you, or how often are you with these verbs? Play cards, study French, go to the mall and eat sandwiches. The questions are, how often do you play cards? How often do you study French? How often do you go to the mall? How often do you eat sandwiches? And observe this. With the verb play soccer, do you say how often do you play soccer or how often are you? Nós não vamos usar o verbo to be com outro verbo, porque não faz sentido. Então, a question para play soccer seria how often do you play soccer? What's the frequency that you play soccer, okay? I play soccer every day. I always play soccer on the weekend. You see? Agora observem aqui o verbo to be mais o complemento. Be sleepy, né? Estar sonolento. And be at home, estar em casa. Eu quero saber a frequência que você fica sonolento, né? Que você está com sono, fica com sono. E a frequência que você está em casa. Como ficaria essa question? How often do you or how often are you? Lembrem-se, quando eu uso o verbo to be, eu não uso o verbo auxiliar do. Então, fica como a question. How often are you sleeping? Or, how often are you at home? Com que frequência você está em casa? I'm always at home. I never go out. You see? Let's practice. Let's check here the expressions every day, todo dia. Once, twice, three times, uma vez, duas vezes, três vezes. In the beginning, no início, or at the end of the sentence. Então, eu posso usar final ou no início de uma frase. Examples. I hang out with my friends twice a week. Eu me divirto, saio com os meus amigos 2 vezes por semana. He studies math every day. Ele estuda matemática todo dia. Então, as expressões twice a week, every day, estão no final da frase. In the end of the sentence, right? At the end of the sentence. Once a week, they go shopping. 3 times a week, we have PE classes, physical education classes. Observe that the frequency adverbs here, the expressions once a week and 3 times a week, are in the beginning of the sentence. Once a week, they go shopping. 3 times a week, we have PE classes. But which is more common? Pay attention. Once, twice, 3 times, and every day, which is more common to use? Do these frequency adverbs usually come in the beginning or at the end of the sentence? Remember that here we studied that we can use in the beginning or at the end of the sentence. But which is more common to use? Let's check. At the end of the sentence. So it's more common to say at the end of the sentences, right? So let's practice a little bit more. How often does your mother? Remember, simple present tense. We use do for all the persons except for he, she, it. For he, she, it, remember, we use does to make the questions. So, pay attention to question here. How often does your mother read books? Com que frequência sua mãe lê livros? Então, eu estou perguntando how often. Eu uso how often para saber a frequência. Eu usei o does porque é your mother, a sua mãe. É ela, né? She. E eu não acrescentei o S ao verbo read na question porque eu já usei o does para indicar he, she, it. Terceira pessoa do simple present. Como é que se responde a essa question? How often does your mother read books? The answer is my mother reads books once a week. A minha mãe lê livros uma vez por semana, quando ela tem folga, né? When she's free. Ok? Next, take a look at the picture. The question is, how often do you and your family eat out? What's the frequency that you and your family eat out when you go to the restaurant? Example. I use it do because the subject here is you and your family. You. So the answer is my family and I eat out 3 times a year for celebrations. I love Christmas dinner. Então, com que frequência você e a sua família comem fora, né? Vão para um restaurante? A minha família e eu comemos 3 vezes ao ano. Comemos fora, né? Para celebrações. E eu adoro o jantar do Natal. Ok? Observem. Eu usei as expressões once a week, 3 times a year. Next examples. How often do you do homework? What's the frequency that you do your exercise from school? The answer is I do my homework every day. So the frequency that you do your exercises is every day, todo dia. Essa é a frequência. Toda vez que eu faço a pergunta how often, eu quero saber a frequência, the frequency of your action, right? And the last one, question. How often do you go skateboarding on weekends? What's the frequency that you go skateboarding on weekends? Qual é a frequência que você vai patinar, né, com skate nos finais de semana? The answer is I go skateboarding twice a month on weekends. Então, você faz essa ação quantas vezes? Qual é a frequência? What's the frequency? Twice a month, 2 times a month, 2 vezes ao mês, nos finais de semana sempre. Okay? Did you understand? So what are the frequency expressions we used here? First, once a week, uma vez por semana. 3 times a year, 3 vezes ao ano. Every day, todo dia. And twice a month, 2 times a month, 2 vezes ao mês. And what is the question for frequency? Questions using how often. Did you get it? Okay, so let's go ahead. Create sentences. Remember, we studied about the frequency adverbs. Always, usually, often, sometimes, rarely, never. And the frequency of these actions are depending on the times you practice them. The first one, I always do this in the morning. So what do you always do in the morning? Think and create a sentence. I always complete the sentence. Example, I always have breakfast in the morning. I always wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay? My mother never does it. Think about it and create a sentence about your mother, something that your mother never does it. My mother never cooks on Sundays. On Sundays, my mother never cooks. Okay? What about you? Think and create your sentence. Young people usually do it on weekends. So what do young people usually do on weekends? I can say that young people usually play soccer on weekends. No, young people usually play video games on weekends. They love video games. They don't practice sports on weekends. Sometimes they do, but they usually play video games, right? What about you? What's your sentence? Next, politicians often do it. What do the politicians often do? I know that. Politicians, especially from Brasília, they often make promises to people. Yeah. Frequentemente os políticos prometem coisas, né? Sabe bem disso? Só prometem. They only promise. Politicians often make promises. Next, dogs and cats hardly ever do it. So, what do the dogs and cats hardly ever do it? O que é que os cães e gatos raramente fazem? In my opinion, dogs and cats hardly ever complete. Dogs and cats hardly ever speak. Gatos e cachorros raramente falam. Okay? It's strange, yeah? Dogs and cats hardly ever become friends. Então, raramente se tornam amigos, right? The last one. Athletes sometimes do it. What do the athletes sometimes do? O que os atletas algumas vezes fazem? The athletes sometimes relax. In my opinion, athletes are always busy practicing sports and they are always training. Yeah? Alright, let's go ahead. To finish our Unit 3, Lesson 3A, I hope that you can understand everything here. And if you have any questions or doubts about it, please contact me, talk to me. I'm here to help you, alright? Contem comigo. Qualquer dúvida que tenham a respeito desse assunto, por favor, mandem mensagens, conversem comigo que eu estou de prontidão para ajudá-los. Obrigada pela atenção.